Welcome in, everybody, to Rock Solid Sports. I'm your host, Jackson Williams. I got Dylan Becker to my left. We got Jason Wyrick across the glass. Justin Klimmer is going to join us after the first segment. But we have a very special guest.
We do?
We have Coach Jeff Carr of the Knoxville Ice Bears. Coach Carr, how are you doing tonight?
Doing fantastic. Thanks as always, guys.
Yes, sir. I'm going to kick it to Dylan for our first question.
You hear it from me every week, Coach. Tell us what happened, what went right, what went wrong this past weekend.
Yeah, I mean, it was a tale of two different teams that we faced. You know, we played Birmingham both nights. So Friday at home was a game that we got ahead and just kind of held on, and they made a little bit of a late push, but we did our job, and then we went on the road. And it was a battle. We were up early and then got down, and it was kind of a back and forth game and a lot of penalty trouble, and then we just kind of decided as a team, you know, it's not always going to go perfect. And I felt like the guys did a really good job stabilizing Jimmy and Net, and that's the whole reason why we went with him on the second night back in on the road instead of Stead, was just he hasn't seen a road game, and Bunt's being out on our team. So it was overall it was a great, you know, situation, I guess, to go through a little bit of those micro fractures and some adversity versus just kind of tailing into an easy opponent. It was a good battle, that's for sure.
Coach, on Saturday, Jared Nash and Birmingham's Russell Jordan got into an altercation in which both players were issued 10-minute misconduct. You kind of go in depth, kind of tell us what happened there?
Yeah, Russell Jordan decided to get tangled up in neutral zone with Nasher, and Nash was down on the ice, and he took his head and bounced his head off the ice like a basketball for about 7 different times, with the ref staring and not making a call on anything. And pretty disappointing. Just, we talked about being emotionally stable and drawing Jordan and, you know, Colton Fletcher, who's on our team, into some bad penalties because they always take them. And their undisciplined team kind of shined through. So then when it went to, you know, a little bit of a melee in front of the net, Nasher kind of held his composure, got under their skin, they got under his, and he took the cross check to the face, and they called them for, they just want to get those guys out of the game so they didn't have to deal with any other issues, but they gave them the penalty, which they should have. It should have been a major, and this guy should have been suspended, but went on the power play and ended up winning that game because of Nasher being disciplined and drawing him in.
Coach, with 2 weeks left in the regular season, we got 2 weeks left and obviously have one home game left before the playoffs begin in April. What's it going to take to maintain control of first place? And are you starting to kind of standings watch for your potential opponents, or do you have a pretty good idea, or does it really even matter as long as you're playing your game?
I mean, honestly, like at the end of the day, it might matter a little bit, but I don't have that crystal ball. I think we're so dialed into what we're doing. But yeah, standings will matter for sure. From first to fourth, first to third, you know, you get home ice most likely if the top seeds win throughout the whole playoff. So we definitely want the top seed. I wouldn't say standings watching, I think, and just taking care of business. But I tell you what, the next 4 games are going to be a challenge to stay healthy and manage our roster with one guy already on a PTO and probably not receiving Palmerville back from the ECHL. So we got some challenges ahead, but I think it's something that we can handle and take it day by day.
Speaking of the ECHL, we heard that Dean Moore was released from his contract with the Iowa, somewhere in Iowa, with the ECHL, and he is yet to rejoin the team. Is there any update on him, or is that something that you know about?
Yeah, we know. That's our job, to basically know every single spec of these guys and transactions and stuff. Dean's taking care of some business stuff from his end. He owns and kind of runs a logistics trucking on the side before he retired and came back in. So he's patching up some loose ends where we're staying in communication and seeing what's going to unfold day to day and kind of going from there.
Coach, Friday night, you were on the penalty kill while there was only I think a minute 40 left. How do you handle being on the penalty kill when it's impossible basically to get back to even strength that late in the third period?
I mean, we got to go through what they're running on the power play, who's our personnel, and the temperature of the game. And I think the biggest thing for a team like that is they're probably, going to feel squeezed and feel a little pressure to get shots early. So early in the game, I feel like a lot of power plays want to feel pressure and kind of ease their way into the game, and they're a little bit more passive and not so deliberate as they go. So we knew they were going to be deliberate. They knew they were going to attack the cage and hit seams early, so we wanted to be patient up top and force them to shoot pucks from the point and attack down low, and then we were going to jump all over them. That's what we did, and it worked to perfection.
Coach, I wanted to talk a little bit about the future. Obviously, playoffs right on the horizon. What do you think is areas of improvement that you got that you think the team can make going in as we head towards the postseason?
Health, number one. Rigid shutdown where we're not giving up any quality chances off the rush. And then out of the corners, we don't have to be so razor quick with going to corners and feeling like we have to win every battle immediately. I think the benefit of just not giving up quality grade A chances are going to benefit our goaltending and our defense and just our risk factor. I don't think we have to go into this playoffs playing a risky game. I really think we can just 1 through 10, maybe risk 10 being the highest, be like a 3 or 4, depending on our opponent, and pick and choose, versus in past years where I feel like we've had to play a high tempo or high octane offense to neutralize defense.
Coach, with Casey Kolcheski leaving the squad, how is his departure going to be kind of patched over? I know he was kind of the roster casualty for another ECHL return. But at this point in the season, you know, you've got some chemistry, you got your lines that have all been playing. But going into the playoffs, it's very important to get everybody those minutes. How are you going to deal with his loss as he joins the Peoria Rivermen?
Well, we didn't lose Casey Kolcheski. We placed him on waivers to be removed from our hockey team to be a free agent. So there's a big difference there. If we lost him through a trade we had to make or a situation of roster management, I think it would. But, Casey's battling a little bit of a foot injury. We just felt that we had upgraded players here, and we felt like we can do the job that we need to do. Without him on the team, we clearly were winning a lot of hockey games when he wasn't a part of playing. So it's no slight to him or a shot or anything like that. It's a business. And at the end of the day, we got a lot of guys chomping at the bit that have been feeling a lot of success. So yeah, he was placed on waivers, and we'll just keep moving forward like we have without him.
Definitely. We are live with Knoxville Ice Bears head coach Jeff Carr. And Coach Carr, I have to ask, what are you looking to see this weekend as the Ice Bears hit the ice once again?
Yeah, I think it's be a little bit of a challenge here because we don't know what to expect with Roanoke. They were fighting it, and they lost 9 or 10 in a row, and now they're a complete different hockey team, and they have a lot of good players that can do some damage physically, and they can skate with a couple guys with some threats. So again, I think the risk factor has to be extremely low. We talk about all week of just having basically a multitude of guys that have to make Roanoke rip the puck off of our stick. I think if we just start throwing the puck around and don't manage it correctly, and then if we go shove for shove, push for push, we're not trying to do that this week, and we have nothing to prove to that team. Physically, we've won every fight that we've had with those guys. We pushed them around physically all year, except for maybe one game when we were decimated. So, it's definitely not going to be a pissing match out there. We just want to manage the puck, stay healthy, and just get through the weekend.
And Coach, every week I got to ask you a baseball question. Tennessee, the unanimous number one team in the country. Did you get to see any of this crazy action we got to see this last weekend?
A tiny bit. I saw the guy that threw 104, and Coach Vitale, man, he's got those guys rolling. He's done just beyond an incredible job, and I know his assistants and the support staff and everyone on that staff and the players that followed suit. And it's incredible of what he's accomplished in a short time, and I can't wait when our season starts winding down to be over at the park. I know I'm going to be there a bunch, that's for sure.
Coach, we usually wrap up talking to you with an NHL question just to transition to our NHL segment, but one of the biggest questions of the entire season has been when Carey Price is going to return. He's been out all season with the player assistance program and also rehabbing a knee injury. Do you think he'll be back this season?
It's hard to tell. I think with them eliminated, yeah, I feel like it's going to 100% become up to his decision. I don't think they're going to leave it up to anyone else. Obviously, if he's cleared by the doctors and he wants to, it's going to be his decision. But that's a really, really hard one because I have no idea if he's going to try to get games and he needs that for his own mental stability, or if he's going to waver and just let it be. And I don't mean waver him mentally. I just mean like let kind of a time go by and clear, I guess, and then go into next year. So I could see him maybe just come back just for the fans in a couple games to give them some hope and faith into next year. But other than that, I don't see a lot of action from him down the stretch.
Coach, thank you so much again for doing this. It's always really fun to talk to you every Wednesday.
Thanks so much, guys. Enjoy the night.
That was Coach Jeff Carr of the Knoxville Ice Bears. Always such a fun time whenever he's on the show.
Always is.
Great interview, always, too.
Yeah.
Very, very gracious, very happy to have him on the show. Great interview. Great.
Yeah, definitely.
Always. And he's just a good time to talk to.
Yeah, always. And, he always has a baseball. Always got to ask him about baseball. Since we found out, he pitched in college.
Wait, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he pitched in college baseball. He played college baseball. That's why I always ask a baseball question every week.
That's interesting. I had no idea. Where did he go to college?
It was a D2 school. He told me about a month ago. But
that's cool. I had no idea that he played baseball.
Yeah, he played baseball and hockey. And speaking of hockey, it is that time of the week. Dylan, what's going on in the NHL?
Well, the Predators are the local team, so I guess we'll start with them. 5-4 win over Philly on Sunday. Love to see that. Being from DC, Baltimore area, we always root against any team from Philadelphia. Nashville is playing Ottawa tonight at 8. Going to be a pretty emotional night because the owner of the Senators died recently, so I'm sure they'll do something with that, even though the game is in Nashville. And you are in Buffalo Friday, so that should be an easy win. Buffalo hasn't been too hot as of late, but we'll see what happens. They've surprised us a few times. Your GM, David Poyle, I think. Poyle. Thank you for that. Wants to keep Forsberg in Nashville, which is a good sign. We talked about it last week, how he's your best offensive point getter. And if you lose that, then things just kind of go very wrong for the Predators. You need that guy that leads the offense, centralizes scoring, passing, assists, what have you. Otherwise, you can't have a successful team. My Capitals, I'm always wearing the red, white, and blue. 4-3 shootout win over Buffalo Saturday. 4-3 win over New Jersey, and an unfortunate Monday 6-1 loss to Carolina, but we are playing Minnesota on Sunday. We've been kind of keeping track of this. Ovechkin is at 772 goals, 30 away from passing Gordie Howe. We'll be keeping track of that as it happens. Probably won't pass him until this time last year, but I'll be talking about it when it does. Minnesota Wild goalie Marc-Andre Fleury, who I'm sure everyone hopefully knows used to play for the Penguins, admits not wanting to be traded to Washington due to his relation to Pittsburgh. So respect the loyalty, despite the fact that I think Pittsburgh screwed him over. But speaking of the Penguins, Sunday night they beat the Red Wings 11-2, which, ouch, that might be one of the highest scoring games I've ever seen. Montreal, Arizona, and Philly are eliminated from the playoffs. Coach Carr briefly mentioned Montreal being eliminated earlier tonight, but it's sad to see them go from Stanley Cup contenders to the first team eliminated, whereas Arizona is just being Arizona. I can't think of a time they've ever been good. And to wrap things up with hockey, this puts me in a good mood. Bruins Taylor Hall fined $5,000 after sucker punching Maple Leafs Ilya Lyubushkin in the side of the head and throwing him to the ice in retaliation to a mostly clean hit by Lyubushkin. These Eastern European names are so hard to pronounce, but I put that in here because friendly reminder that Tom Wilson has not gotten in trouble with the league since the infamous May 3rd game against the Rangers last season. We love criticizing anyone else. I will admit, when it comes time to defend or admit he's wrong, I will be there when Tom Wilson does something. But whenever other teams that point out what he does is wrong act hypocritical, I like to point that out.
Definitely. Always a good time in the world of hockey. We got to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we're going to talk Vols Pro Day, Vol baseball, little NFL action, a little bit of NBA later on in the show. We will be right back here on Rock Solid Sports. Stick it right here.
Hello, this is Miss Tess, and you're listening to 90.3 The Rock, UT's College of Rock.
Volunteer Radio remains on air thanks to support from Fieldhouse Social, a modern sports bar and restaurant next to the UT campus at University Commons. Open every day at 11 a.m., serving American craft fare, beer, and cocktails inside or on the covered patio. With over 25 HD TVs at every angle and all UT games shown on the 20-foot LED TV wall. At FH Social Knox on Instagram, fieldhousesocial.com. Support to keep WUTK on air comes from listeners and from the UT Athletic Department and the UT Lady Vols softball team, whose home season schedule at Sherry Parker Lee Stadium features games against SEC rivals Texas A&M, Auburn, and others. Allvols.com for Lady Vols softball tickets and more. UT students need a valid UT ID for admission to all home games. WUTK's Rock Solid Sports provides UT softball coverage. Volunteer Radio wishes the 2022 Lady Vols softball team good luck as they compete to return to the College Softball World Series.
Volunteer Radio stays on air thanks to Cool Beans, the 21-up college sports bar next to campus on Lake Avenue, a block off the strip. Cool Beans has 25 rotating beer taps and bottles. HD TVs everywhere, along with darts, pool, and arcade games. Open every day at 11 a.m. to late night. Burgers, wings, and sandwiches, Vol card accepted. Cool Beans hosts Rock Solid Sports every Monday night at 7. Trivia Tuesdays, Bingo Thursdays. More on Instagram at Knox Cool Beans or CoolBeansBar.com.
Volunteer Radio remains on the air thanks to support from listeners and from the Knoxville Ice Bears Southern Professional Hockey League team, whose 2021-2022 home ice season includes games with SPHL rivals Fayetteville, Huntsville, and others at the Civic Coliseum in downtown Knoxville. The Ice Bears regular season runs through April 9th, and season and single game tickets at KnoxvilleIceBears.com. Tune in to WUTK Rock Solid Sports for the Wednesday Ice Bears news and updates. Volunteer Radio says go Ice Bears.
Knoxville, be sure to tune in Wednesday nights from 8 until 10 p.m. for The Alternative, sponsored by Bliss and Torrey Mason Shoes on Gate Street and in Westtown Mall. And Bliss Home at the Gallery Shopping Center, also sponsored by Boyd's Chicken Grill, bar and live music venue in the heart of Knoxville's Old City. The Alternative features 2 hours of the best in Americana music from the station who first brought Knoxville music by bands from back in the alt-country days, like the Jayhawks, Uncle Tupelo, Steve Earle, and Jason and the Scorchers, to 90s Americana like the V-Roys, Whiskey Town, Lucinda Williams, Sunvold, and others, to modern-day Americana musicians like Molly Tuttle, Tyler Childers, Casey Musgraves, Sturgill Simpson, Billy Strings, and the Punch Brothers. You'll also get classic Americana like Johnny Cash, the band, and Emmylou Harris, and there's always Patsy Cline at 9. Tune in Wednesday nights at 8 for The Alternative. Sponsored by Boyd's Chicken Grill, Bliss Home, and Torrey Mason Shoes, and only on 90.3 The Rock, UT's College of Rock.
Hey, this is Nordista Freeze, and you're listening to WUTK.
Volunteer Radio remains on the air thanks to support from Tennessee Smokies Baseball, the AA Southern League affiliate of the Chicago Cubs, whose 2022 regular season schedule features 6-game homestands Tuesdays through Sundays at nearby Smokies Stadium in Kodak against the Chattanooga Lookouts, Mississippi Braves, Birmingham Barons, and more. WUTK's Rock Solid Sports will cover Smokies Baseball all season long. SmokiesBaseball.com, and a link is at WUTKRadio.com.
90.3 The Rock.
Hey, guys. Whoa, big gulp, son. All right. Well, see you later.
Local music's best friend.
The Rock thanks the Hill Bar and Grill for their support. The Hill on Forest Avenue, open 7 days a week at 11 a.m. until late night for dining indoors or on the expanded patio. The Hill has a variety of appetizers and a full menu of wings, burgers, tacos, and more. Trivia, karaoke, and weekend DJs upstairs. The Hill Bar and Grill in the Fort on Forest Avenue. On Instagram at The Hill Knox. Menu and catering at thehillknox.com.
WUTK thanks nonprofit Dogwood Arts for their support and community partnership. The inaugural Southern Skies Music Festival is a Dogwood music event curated by the Knoxville's Dirty Governors. Saturday, May 14th, on the lawn at World's Fair Park, live music from Blues Traveler, Maggie Rose, The New Respects, and 5 other bands will be performing as well. VIP and general admission tickets are on sale now at southernskiesmusicfestival.com and dogwoodarts.com. Listening to 90.3 The Rock for chances to win a pair of VIP tickets. A link is at WUTKradio.com.
Volunteer Radio remains on the air thanks to listener donations and support from the UT Athletic Department. After making it to Omaha last season, the 2022 baseball fall season begins in February and runs into May, featuring games with SEC rivals South Carolina, Alabama, Georgia, and more at Lindsey Nelson Stadium. Season, group, and individual game ticket info is at allvols.com. Students need to show their valid UT ID at the gate for entrance. Tune into Rock Solid Sports for UT baseball coverage, and The Rock wishes Coach Vitello and the Baseballs good luck on the diamond this season.
Volunteer Radio receives support from Tennessee Smokies Baseball, the AA Southern League affiliate of the Chicago Cubs. Their 2022 regular season schedule features 6-game homestands Tuesdays through Sundays at Smoky Stadium in Kodak, with the season kicking off against the Chattanooga Lookouts Friday, April 8th, through the weekend on Sunday, April 10th. WUTK's Rock Solid Sports, hey, that's us. We'll have Smokies baseball updates throughout the season. It's a 9-inning vacation. SmokiesBaseball.com, and there's a link at WUTKradio.com.
Welcome back to Rock Solid Sports. I'm your host, Jackson Williams. I got Dylan Becker to my left. I got Jason Wyrick and Justin Clemmer across the glass. And at our sponsor, Fieldhouse Social, 2525 University Commons Way, I got my man Riley Haltom. Riley, what's going on at Fieldhouse?
You know how it is down here at Fieldhouse. Always a good time. We got the Tennessee baseball game going on behind you right here on the big TV screen. 6-0 for the Vols. Blake Tidwell's warming up, by the way. As you can hear, I'm sure we got trivia going on as well. So come down here. Come enjoy the atmosphere, the food, watch some ball baseball here at Fieldhouse Social.
Always a good time at our sponsor, Fieldhouse Social. And how about them baseballs right now? Let's get into that. Let's start with that.
I want to talk. Let's go.
Because
can I give the synopsis of the weekend real quick?
Go for it.
So they pulled this stunt with a certain former football coach at Tennessee, and he throws out a golf ball for the first pitch. And then they proceeded to get whipped 10 ways to Sunday, 3 straight days. The Baseballs went in to Mississippi, beat them 10 ways to Sunday, 3 straight days, took their number 1 ranking, and hopped back on the bus. That's how this weekend went.
Brooms. Yeah, a big sweep for Tennessee baseball.
That was
awesome. Winning, I want to say 10-1, 7-3, and then 4-3.
Stupid at home when Ole Miss was number 1 in the country.
Yeah, it was a great.
Tony Vitello is not screwing around.
It was a great weekend for Tennessee baseball, and it's just about to get better because Riley just said Blake Tidwell is warming up in the pen, who is the best pitcher on this staff, and this staff has been a top staff in the country, and they're getting their ace back.
Tony Vitello is one of the best pitching coaches and was probably the best pitching coach in the country when he took his first head coaching job. I believe it was with us, right? We got him from Arkansas, and he has shown continuously why he is the best pitching coach in the country, because he just develops pitchers for fun. And then that's why the Vols have the best pitching staff in the country right now, and we don't even have Blade throwing yet. It's wild to me.
Yeah, I mean, with Tidwell coming back, especially in a reliever role, I mean, if you get Dollander throwing 6 innings of heat with 9-10 Ks, and you pull him and you put Blade Tidwell in.
What about Ben Joyce too? He's throwing heat too.
Joyce throws Joyce throws fire. Dollander throws heat. Chase throws fire. Or Joyce throws fire.
Right. There's gas, and then there's heat, and then there's fire.
Yeah, I mean, 104.1, which is his highest in game. Vitello has said that he can reach 105. He's in his first outing. Vitello said he was disappointed he didn't hit 105.
I have only ever seen one other guy ever hit 105, and he's pitching in the majors for the Chicago White Sox, and it's Michael Kopech. Like, those are the 2 guys on the planet that can throw 105. Because if you're throwing 105, you're getting signed. And there is nobody else that has ever, recently at least, been throwing that hard because you would hear about them. You would know. The fact that Tennessee has one of these guys, it's unbelievable.
Yeah, and you look at the way the roster is currently looked at, and they think Ben Joyce can be a 3 to 4 inning pitcher for them. That's what Tony Vitello has said, that he thinks they can give Ben Joyce the ball for 3 to 4 innings of heat, of fire.
I don't think you can hit 104 for that many innings, but hit 101, 102 for 3 straight innings. That's a pretty solid work out of the pen.
And 100's still impressive.
I mean,
in college, 100 is ungodly.
100 is hard to hit at the major league level. 101, 102 for multiple innings. That is a weapon out of the bullpen.
And it's when I feel horrible for these midweek teams because it's not SEC play. It's a lot of in-state opponents. It seems like your Tennessee Tech, which is a very solid Tennessee Tech. Honestly, other than Texas, gave the Vols their best challenge so far this season. Before that game got called due to rain, that was the most of a test that Tennessee's had so far this season outside of Texas. So these midweek games, and a lot of these kids haven't really seen much of 90. So then you throw Ben Joyce in there.
I think that's a little bit of a hyperbole. Even these midweek teams they're seeing 90, they're seeing 95.
But they're not seeing 103.
They're not, but there's a big difference between 90 and 103.
A couple of these teams have not seen much of 90.
Give these mid-majors a little bit of credit here.
A couple of these teams have not seen much of 90s because I saw like Rhode Island and Iona had not seen much of 90.
Okay, those guys, fine. But put some respect on Belmont. Put some respect on Tennessee Tech, Eastern Kentucky. Those are some pretty solid midweek opponents.
Yeah. And, they see some more 90, but a few of the Tennessee's opponents, when they throw Ben Joyce in, these guys are swinging like after Evan Russell is about to throw the ball back to Ben Joyce for the next pitch. They're swinging. It's pretty fun. And he's definitely a big part of it. But this lineup is just as good as it was last year. Obviously, you lose Liam Spence, you lose a guy like Max Ferguson, 2 blue chip prospects, and you replace them, and your lineup looks just as good, if not better. You're on pace to break the single season home run record for the program by 81 home runs. 81 homers.
A program that had Todd Helton too.
Yeah,
no slouch. That's when you've got the depth like that, just keep rolling in. That's how you know you have built something really special. And I told you guys this in the spring, and I've been trying to get this, through the heads of our listeners who may or may not be new to college baseball. When you are losing your commits to the draft, that is how you know you are an elite program. And the Vols started doing that this past year. Really, there were a couple of guys that we lost to the draft. That's how you know you've got a really, really, really good program on your hands.
And there's a couple guys who could have went to the draft. Like I'm trying to
the pitcher. Yeah.
Yes.
Burns was
draftable. There's a lot of draftable guys on the. I mean, Jordan Beck, obviously, he decided to come here before he was really a big time draft prospect. He's going to be a top 3 round pick in the MLB draft, if not first round. Jordan Beck is one of the top talents in baseball right now.
Jordan Beck is a top 15, 20 talent in the draft period. He's a top 10 college player as far as eligible for this upcoming draft. I would almost promise he's a first round pick. I would almost promise that.
He has had a little bit of a rough patch this season, and it's nothing to his own fault. He is crushing baseballs.
It's just tools in the world too.
Yeah, it's just direct. It just happens. He's hitting into the shift a lot. He's hitting into different.
Oh, good thing that's getting banned.
Yeah, he's getting a lot of. Yeah, he's getting a lot of really solid contact. You look and you're amazed at how fast and how hard he's hitting this baseball. But it's a line out. But
got some bad news for you guys real quick. Blake Tidwell did finally come in. His first batter hits a triple. So not the debut you want, but I mean, hey, he's coming off injury. It's his first batter, and who knows how long. He's got some room to improve.
And that's why you throw him in a midweek game and not an SEC game, in a game that, as Riley said, Tennessee's up 6-0 right now. Could be 6-1 with Tidwell giving up that triple early. But he'll be back to his old form. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that Blade Tidwell will be back to his dominant performance that he was last year.
And like you were saying, it's why you don't throw him into close on Sunday against Ole Miss.
Yeah, I mean,
you don't throw him into the fire like that.
He may cost you the sweep against Ole Miss. It's going to take him time to get back into a pitching rhythm. He'll get back there. I'm not worried. I mean, I think
he'll probably settle in this game too, and that triple is probably the worst that's going to happen.
Yeah,
in my eyes.
I mean, he's the ace of this Tennessee team that has one of the best pitching staffs in the country, and they didn't have their ace.
That's wild. This team's number one without him.
Yeah.
Just imagine how good this team can be with him.
And, you're going to see Tidwell as a reliever. You're going to see Tidwell as a midweek starter. And then you'll finally get to see Tidwell on weekends. I ultimately think he takes Drew Beam's spot just because I think they're going to shift. I think Dollander might shift to Sunday. Burns stays at Friday, and I think you might throw.
I'm going to disagree. I think that he'll probably take somebody's spot in the weekend rotation if he heals up. You're not going to take those guys off of their days, though. They've got their routines. They're going to stay. They'll just, if they're replacing Drew Beam, what is he, Sunday?
Yeah.
So they would probably just throw him on Sunday because you're not going to mess up those other two guys' rhythms either.
Yeah. I also think once we get to the postseason, having this crazy 5-man rotation that Tennessee's going to have is going to be absolutely lethal and something that
Oh, yeah. When you've got 2 or 3 games in a row, days in a row as well, that's like a weekend series in the middle of the week when you're playing the first part of the College World Series, should you make it that far. And you need a deep staff for that.
I think this team is destined for Omaha at this point. I mean, how could you not right now? But you're right. This is going to be a deep pitching staff. I like the chemistry that this weekend staff has currently, just because they play really well together. Or they all bring different things to the table, which is really good. They all contrast each other in a really nice way. Drew Beam is more of your pitch to contact guy. Dollander is your strikeout guy, and Chase Burns falls right there in the middle. And all 3 guys dominate in their respective ways, while giving you something different that in a weekend series, hitters have to adjust to, and it takes a little longer because you don't have 3 guys who are throwing very similar stuff.
Exactly. That's what makes a variety in a rotation, especially at the college level, so dangerous. When you have guys that can beat you in different ways, you're in trouble because you're going to have to switch between them because that Tennessee's got bullpen arms that can do all those things as well. And you can mix and match any way you want any given day, based on the lineup that you're facing or what have you. And you have to, like you said, you have to make adjustments. And when you're making those adjustments, it takes 2 or 3 pitches to kind of get used to that again. And if you're pitching the right way, those are putting you in an 0-2 hole, maybe even getting you out already.
And then
those
you got
are free outs.
And then once you adjust to the new pitch to the starter, they bring in Ben Joyce. Yep. And he's throwing one away. And then you got to adjust to that because that's a monster in its own. Riley, can we get one score update? And then we're going to go on to the Tennessee Pro Day.
Absolutely. It's now 8-1. That triple did end up getting scored off a double. So Vols now lead 8-1, up by 7. Dollander still the pitcher. Lipscomb gave up an error, so West Carolina has runners on first and third. So, not looking too hot this inning, but 7-run lead. Vols can knock this out. Up to them to do it, though.
Yeah, Tidwell will settle in. He'll get back. I think also he's really eager, and I think, he needs to settle his nerves a little bit. He'll be back to his 2020, 2021 ways before we know it. Let's get into the Pro Day because all 32 teams were across the street at Neyland Thompson Sports Complex here on campus, checking out Alante Taylor, Theo Jackson, Velas Jones Jr., Javante Payton, and more. Matt Butler.
Hey, Chris Ballard, go draft Javante Payton.
He's got good speed.
Where would you like him to get picked?
I would love for the Colts to draft.
He would. He's a 7. He's a day 3.
But he's a guy that has that kind of upside that you like out of a day 3 guy, though. That's what I like most about him as a prospect. If he gets a good quarterback to throw him the football, I think he can thrive. But it's going to take him getting a guy like a veteran quarterback. You don't want to throw him in with like Jalen Hurts. That's the type of quarterback that would make him not successful. But if he's got, like for instance, a guy like Matt Ryan, I think that's a good place for him to go, especially with the Colts just having a barren wasteland at wide receiver right now.
Oh yeah, and you talk about barren wasteland right receiver. Just look at the Falcons last year. I mean, who was Matt Ryan?
Patterson.
Yeah, Cordell Patterson.
Hey, we love him. Go Big Orange.
Yeah, right.
But he's not Julio Jones and
Calvin Ridley.
Right, exactly.
I mean, he was
Calvin Ridley was
Olamide, Zacchaeus last year, and the Colts have had
Tajay Sharp. Hey, don't disrespect the Tajay Sharp
Titans legend.
Titans legend rapper Tajay Sharp.
Yeah, hey, shout out to PRP. If you know, you know. That's Pleasure Ridge Park High School in Louisville, Kentucky. That is where Tajay Sharp is from. Louisville guy.
But
we love to hear it.
Let's get back into Tennessee's pro day. I was there. Javonte Payton did show out. He showed off his speed a lot. We did not get official 40 time numbers just yet, but I saw, and he looked probably the second fastest guy, Velas Jones Jr.
It's hard to beat him.
Yeah. Or Velas didn't run the 40 today, but we know he didn't run as fast as a 40 as Velas did. But Javonte showed his speed. He showed good hands. He didn't drop any balls. He ran crisp routes. The field was a little bit weird today. A lot of guys were slipping and sliding, so you can't really blame that on him when I don't think there was a prospect today that didn't slip. Nope, Matt Butler slipped. Pretty much every prospect slipped, so I don't really blame any slippage on the player right now at this point after seeing that. Another guy who has killed his draft, or who has ascended up draft boards, who is probably an undrafted cat who has probably got himself into the 5th or 6th round, is Matthew Butler. Matthew Butler is going to make an NFL team very happy, and he was worked out extensively by the Titans defensive staff today at the pro day. John Robinson was hands-on. Shane Bowen was there hands-on. And a lot of other teams were watching, and he really put on a show for the prospects. Really a good day for Matthew Butler, and he's had, I would say, him and Velas have had the two best post draft process so far. Matt Butler was not going to get drafted in January, but he is going to be at least a day 3 pick at this point.
I mean, you have to think so. And he's got, rather limited upside probably, but that doesn't mean that he doesn't provide a lot, to the table now. And that's what he's showing in, the recent pre-draft workouts. He's showing that he can be a guy that can contribute. Yeah, maybe he's not a guy that you want to draft in the first round because he's going to become a superstar at the next level, but that doesn't mean he can't make an NFL roster. Those guys at the end of the roster, those third string guys, those are very important, especially when you have, guys starting to get hurt, and you want those guys that can come in and compete. You don't want guys that are just projects. Yeah, they may have all the upside, but if they can't come in and perform right now, they're not really worth it. And Matthew Butler's a guy that can come in and perform right now. Maybe not, like I said, have the tremendous upside of, a first round pick, but dude can play football, and he's good, and he's proven it this week.
And I really think that, I think when you look at Matt Butler, I think he's a very similar player to Daquan Jones in terms of level of play. I think his upside probably goes up to a Danico Autry. I think he's I think at face value he's a very similar player to Daquan Jones. Just he's going to be good in the trenches. He's going to make plays. He's going to make the plays he should.
And he's going to be ugly, which is what you want out of the trenches.
Yeah.
Reminds me a lot of Shy Tuttle. Same thing. He came out of Tennessee on that D-line for the Saints and started making a big impact. I think Matthew Butler could do something very similar.
Yeah, he's got a good chance of being a nice rotational guy you can put there at the nose or just really around the D-line.
And honestly, staying at Tennessee was probably the best decision for him. He really shined in this Tim Banks scheme. In the Josh Heupel regime, and he amplified that at the Shrine Bowl as well as the Combine as well as today. He has put together. The last year for him couldn't have gone better in terms of a draft stock, and a player who has not done particularly the best for the draft stock has been Cade Mays. Originally projected to be a 4th round pick. I'm not sure Cade Mays is going to get drafted.
No, I think that's a little harsh. I think he's still going to get drafted, but he hasn't really helped his cause. But I don't think he's going to drop that far.
I have him probably late day 3, round late 6th, 7th. to undrafted. I mean, he is really not helped himself in this pre-draft process. I wanted him to come back for another year. I think another year, maybe a full season, being able to be healthy. He hasn't really been able to do that at Tennessee.
That's the problem, though. He's got to go pro while he's a little bit healthy because he needs to cash that check before he gets hurt so bad that he can't go pro. Yeah, it's a weird balancing because right now teams look at him and go, I mean, you haven't been able to play a full season since you got to Tennessee. It's a very weird game of tango you have to play because you have to look out for yourself as well as show NFL scouts that you're going to be a reliable player once you get to the next level. Yeah, I don't think that he could have come back and helped himself. I think that's a gamble that's just not worth taking because he's showed that he can be a good football player when he's healthy. The problem is he can't stay healthy. And that's bad enough as it is, but you don't want to stay getting hurt and just ruin your draft stock even more. And then you're not getting any younger either. The older these guys get, the lower their draft stock's going to go. Very rarely do you see a guy who's a redshirt senior that just shoots up draft boards. Joe Burrow doesn't walk through the door every day. And so with that being said, I don't mind him going pro. I get it. But I think he could have helped himself as far as like football skills a little bit more. I think he could have improved his draft stock. The problem is I don't think he would have stayed healthy. And that's going to kill your draft stock.
Yeah. And he hasn't helped himself in the pre-draft process either. I mean, he didn't look great in the Senior Bowl. He looked better today, but obviously it's not contact. You're not in pads. You're not banging around. So it's a little bit harder to judge offensive linemen in the pro day. The Senior Bowl is really where you are going to make or break a lot of draft stock. Plus your game film obviously is the key number one thing. And yeah, I mean, he didn't help himself at the Senior Bowl. I think he was projected to be a 4th round pick when he initially declared, but that will not be the case. And I mean, we'll see. I mean, obviously, I think all of us had Trey Smith going in the 3rd to 4th round, and he didn't get picked till the 7th. I mean,
but he also, so the difference between a guy like him and a guy like Cade Mays, that Trey Smith's going to have a relatively short NFL career. He's got a condition that's going to limit his longevity in the league, but he's not a guy you're going to have to worry about in how well he plays. Cade Mays is kind of the opposite issue. Like, yeah, he's kind of hit or miss, and he's kind of been hurt, but all things said, if he stays healthy, he can have a long, good career. But when you're going to have a guy who is already having a relatively limited shelf life in the NFL, going late's not that surprising, I don't think. And I think he got a great. I think he
landed in the best possible situation.
Definitely. Either the Chiefs or the Colts would have been excellent for him. Just a guy to plug and play on a really good offensive line already. And he landed in, I think, the perfect spot in Kansas City. And he's going to be there for their window. And, like I said, he may have a short NFL career, probably will. But he's going to have a pretty darn good one with a lot of success with the Kansas City Chiefs.
My point there was the draft is just so unpredictable. I mean,
all it takes is one team to love you.
Yeah, it's definitely Trey Smith landed in the best possible situation. Obviously had a welcome to the NFL moment against the Titans, but I digress. Just had to get that one in. But
of course you did.
He obviously everybody okay. So everybody in this pre-draft process has to kind of jump through all these hoops, go through everything. But at the end of the day, you don't know. I mean, Vilas could be the last fall off the board. Alontae Taylor could be the first fall off the board. It's just the draft is the most unpredictable thing. I think it's one of the weirdest things we've ever tried to predict here in the sports media space because, I mean, who really knows what these teams are going to do? I mean, this year you don't even have a consensus number one. What's up, Riley?
No, I was just going to say, I definitely think it will either be Matthew Butler or Alontae Taylor going off first. I think both those guys offer a lot of upside, not a whole lot of down. Vilas, somewhere there in the middle. And then I think you get Cade Mays, probably 7th round pick towards the end. I think you made a very good comparison, Jason, with it being like a very comparable situation to Trey Smith, where Trey Smith had one issue, Cade Mays has the other. I think that puts their draft stock about the same.
And I really like Theo Jackson as well. I think what he brings, to the table, especially if you schematically you have a good fit for him. I think he could make a lot of teams really, really, really happy in this draft as well.
Yeah, he's going to be a project guy.
He is, but with the right scheme and the right type of coaching, he is a guy that has just untapped potential, like oozes the untapped potential, and he's already a pretty good ball hawk, and he can play, he can play outside backer, he can play safety. He's got a little bit of versatility depending on what you want him to do. I really like him to be a surprise, a higher than people think type of pick come the draft time.
And yeah, let's shift away from the pro day side because we had spring practice this morning, day 5 of spring practice. And, it's so interesting this year because last year, you had a quarterback battle, you had a new scheme trying to be put in. Everybody just seems so much more relaxed this year because everything is not going wrong. The sky is no longer falling.
The system works.
The system is working. You have your entrenched starting quarterback. You have another young, you have Joe Milton behind him. You have Taven Jackson behind those two. It's you have a solid running back room with Justin Williams coming in as a freshman. You have Jabari Small, Jalen Wright from last year. You have your receiving core almost all intact without, obviously you lose 2 pieces in Javonte Payton and Velus Jones, but you keep your true number 1 receiver in Cedric Tillman, and Jalen Hyatt is going to be a stud as a number 2 receiver in the SEC.
He just looks unbelievable.
You keep your top 2 tight ends. You keep a lot of your offensive line in place. Obviously, you lose Cade Mays, Brandon Kennedy.
Cade Mays was only on the field half the time anyway.
That's true. And you have the other Mays brother. The defense, you lost a little bit on the defense. You lost more than you did on the offensive side, on the defensive side. And it's really looking, it's just everything is running smoothly, which is about the best you can say right now for Tennessee because this program has been anything but smooth since the moment they introduced Derek Dooley as head coach after Lane Kiffin left in the middle of the night back in 2010.
I think really, though, you're talking about losing more defensive pieces. I think that's almost good for this program, though, because it shows, look, Tim Banks can get guys drafted. Everybody's talked about, all right, we've gotten some offensive, 5-star players, Nico Yamaleava, him bringing his friends to town potentially. You've talked about the good, high-ranked offensive players, but you haven't seen a whole lot of defensive players. And people have questioned, can this team recruit defense? Well, the more you get guys drafted, the more they're going to show up on Rocky Top, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah. If Tennessee has a big defensive weekend, like if Matt Butler goes high and Alante Taylor goes right after him, and, you see maybe Blakely get a late-round draft pick, you see these guys who really flourish in the Heupel scheme because, in Heupel scheme, you're going to get plenty of chances to get good film out there because you are going to be playing until the sun comes up because the offense can literally go 3 and out in less than a minute.
Or you can score in 15 seconds against the school up north.
Or against Florida.
Georgia.
It's a awesome offense, but I feel for these defensive players.
You've got to be well conditioned, but that's going to bode well for them going into the NFL because they're going to be more well conditioned than anybody else. It's like in the movie Miracle. Dylan, you want to say it?
Again.
Exactly. That's how well conditioned this defense is going to have to be.
They basically are told again. They're like, oh, you're going on defense again. But it's definitely, it's so much more like everybody knows the system. They go to work and it's going to help them take a next step, which after overachieving in year 1 of Heupel's scheme is going to be a big thing. Riley, before we go to break, can we get one last update? Before we go to break, we'll come back obviously after the second break with you. But what's going on in the baseball's game?
Absolutely. Believe we're still 8-1. Blade Tidwell did get out of that inning just fine. Only gave up 1 run. So balls are rolling, trying to close this game out against Western Carolina.
Definitely our underwriting director, Jimmy Holt, a alum of Western Carolina. So go Vols tonight. And we're going to take a quick break. When we get back on the other side, we're going to talk a little bit of the moves made around the NFL. Haven't gotten to spar with Jason in the NFL world in a little bit. So going to be a fun last segment when we come back.
About the World Cup qualifying as well.
As well as that on the other side here on Rock Solid Sports.
Give me like 30 seconds.
Volunteer Radio remains on air thanks to support from Fieldhouse Social, a modern sports bar and restaurant next to the UT campus at University Commons. Open every day at 11 a.m., serving American craft fare, beer, and cocktails inside or on the covered patio. With over 25 HD TVs at every angle and all UT games shown on the 20-foot LED TV wall. At FH Social Knox on Instagram, fieldhousesocial.com. Support to keep WUTK on air comes from listeners and from the UT Athletic Department and the UT Lady Vols softball team, whose home season schedule at Sherry Parker Lee Stadium features games against SEC rivals Texas A&M, Auburn, and others. AllVols.com for Lady Vols softball tickets and more. UT students need a valid UT ID for admission to all home games. WTK's Rock Solid Sports provides UT softball coverage. Volunteer Radio wishes the 2022 Lady Vols softball team good luck as they compete to return to the College Softball World Series.
Yo, STS9 shouting out at 90.3 The Rock, UT's College of Rock. You checking it?
Volunteer Radio remains on the air thanks to support from listeners and from the Knoxville Ice Bears Southern Professional Hockey League team, whose 2021-2022 home ice season includes games with SPHL rivals Fayetteville, Huntsville, and others at the Civic Coliseum in downtown Knoxville. The Ice Bears regular season runs through April 9th, and season and single game tickets at KnoxvilleIceBears.com. Tune in to WUTK Rock Solid Sports for the Wednesday Ice Bears news and updates. Volunteer Radio says go Ice Bears.
Volunteer Radio remains on the air thanks to support from Tennessee Smokies Baseball, the AA Southern League affiliate of the Chicago Cubs, whose 2022 regular season schedule features 6-game homestands Tuesdays through Sundays at nearby Smokies Stadium in Kodak against the Chattanooga Lookouts, Mississippi Braves, Birmingham Barons, and more. WUTK's Rock Solid Sports will cover Smokies baseball all season long. SmokiesBaseball.com, and a link is at WUTKRadio.com.
Volunteer Radio stays on air thanks to Cool Beans, the 21 Up college sports bar next to campus on Lake Avenue, a block off the strip. Cool Beans has 25 rotating beer taps and bottles. HD TVs everywhere, along with darts, pool, and arcade games. Open every day at 11 a.m. till late night. Burgers, wings, and sandwiches, vol card accepted. Cool Beans hosts Rock Solid Sports every Monday night at 7. Trivia Tuesdays, Bingo Thursdays. More on Instagram at Knox Cool Beans or CoolBeansBar.com.
Volunteer Radio remains on the air thanks to listener donations and support from the UT Athletic Department. After making it to Omaha last season, the 2022 baseball ball season begins in February and runs into May, featuring games with SEC rivals South Carolina, Alabama, Georgia, and more at Lindsey Nelson Stadium. Season group and individual game ticket info is at allvols.com. Students need to show their valid UT ID at the gate for entrance. Tune into Rock Solid Sports for UT baseball coverage, and The Rock wishes Coach Vitello and the Baseballs good luck on the diamond this season.
The Rock thanks the Hill Bar and Grill for their support. The Hill on Forest Avenue, open 7 days a week at 11 a.m. until late night for dining indoors or on the expanded patio. The Hill has a variety of appetizers and a full menu of wings, burgers, tacos, and more. Trivia, karaoke, and weekend DJs upstairs. The Hill Bar and Grill in the Fort on Forest Avenue. On Instagram at The Hill Knox. Menu and catering at thehillknox.com.
Knoxville, be sure to tune in Wednesday nights from 8 until 10 p.m. for The Alternative, sponsored by Bliss and Tory Mason Shoes on Gate Street and in West Town Mall. And Bliss Home at the Gallery Shopping Center, also sponsored by Boyd's Chicken Grill Bar and Live Music Venue in the heart of Knoxville's Old City. The Alternative features 2 hours of the best in Americana music from the station who first brought Knoxville music about bands from back in the alt-country days, like the Jayhawks, Uncle Tupelo, Steve Earle, and Jason and the Scorchers, to 90s Americana like the V-Roys, Whiskey Town, Lucinda Williams, Sunvold, and others, to modern-day Americana musicians like Molly Tuttle, Tyler Childers, Casey Musgraves, Sturgill Simpson, Billy Strings, and the Punch Brothers. You'll also get classic Americana like Johnny Cash, the band, and Emmylou Harris, and there's always Patsy Cline at 9. Tune in Wednesday nights at 8 for The Alternative. Sponsored by Boyd's Chicken Grill, Bliss Home, and Tory Mason Shoes, and only on 90.3 The Rock, UT's College of Rock.
Welcome back to Rock Solid Sports. I'm your host, Jackson Williams. I got Dylan Becker to my left. We got Justin Clemmer and Jason Wyrick across the glass. And at our sponsor at 2525 University Commons Way, Fieldhouse Social.
They got the biggest TV of all time.
The biggest TV I've ever seen. And it is Riley Haltom.
Right under that TV.
Over there. Right under the TV. I can see it. I can see it in the background right there. Riley, what's going on?
You know how it is down here at Fieldhouse Social. Always a good time. We got the Vols on the TV, up 11-1. Blake Tidwell got out of the inning. Vols score, clear the bases on a 2-out double. 11-1 Vols. Volunteer fireman Ben Joyce comes in to pitch. We talked about what he can do. So come down here, get some good food, enjoy the trivia, and watch the game down here at Fieldhouse Social.
Got the biggest TV of all time. Like, I kid you not. This score bug on this TV is as big as Riley's head.
Yeah, it's
that big.
Maybe a digit is as big as a head.
Yeah, it is a pretty awesome TV at Fieldhouse Social. You know what else is pretty awesome? The AFC South. No, wasn't gonna go there. I was gonna say that AFC South. You know, the Colts are a part of that, so I guess you could use the transitive property there.
Listen.
But
Nobody thinks that the Houston Texans are awesome, though.
I don't know. Watching
Literally
them
nobody.
implode from the inside has been pretty awesome as a Titans fan.
I mean, same.
And that's awesome for a different reason.
But
we'll take it.
And then
though.
Trevor Lawrence, awesome. I mean, Derrick Henry, awesome. AJ Brown,
Christian Kirk,
awesome.
awesome. Evan Ingram, awesome.
Quentin Nelson, best O lineman in football.
Yeah, I would say that. That's
Darius Leonard, best linebacker in football.
Yeah, those are popular opinions.
At the very, very worst, those guys are like second best in the league at their position. At the very worst.
I would put Nelson as second best O lineman. Trent Williams still number one.
Nah,
in
can't get behind that.
he is. And Trent Williams is a
They're both mean.
bona fide Hall of Fame, like a guaranteed Hall of Famer.
I will not disagree. I agree with that.
So the Colts made a move for a quarterback. They
Let's
got
go.
Matt Ryan from the Atlanta Falcons for a 2023 third round pick. And the Falcons ate a good portion of this man's contract.
Like all of it.
And
It was awesome.
I like the move for the Colts. I think it's obviously an upgrade over the disaster that was the Carson Wentz experience.
I'm glad that you could admit it was a good move because some people cannot admit that it was a good move.
It was definitely a good move.
Does it quiet move?
I think it's very similar to another move that an AFC South team made with the Atlanta Falcons. I think it's a good move. I don't think it puts the Colts over the top. That is my
over the top. You mean division winner?
Yes.
Oh, I think the Colts are already the best team in this division.
I look at the holes on the offense.
Hear me out. The Colts, with the disaster that was Carson Wentz, still almost managed to win the division. One or two things here and there throughout the season go differently. One or two plays, and the Colts win that division. And you take that burning dumpster fire and put a Hall of Fame quarterback in there?
Matt Ryan's not a Hall of Famer.
That's cap.
Do you think Matt Stafford's a Hall of Famer?
Absolutely.
Okay, then I guess you could make an argument for Matt Ryan until if he wins a Super Bowl in Indy, I will say Matt Ryan is a Hall of Fame quarterback.
Hey, but the Titans will be.
The Titans are still a very, very good football team.
And it's going to be hard to be less healthy than they were last year.
And yeah, obviously the Titans were hit with a truck of an injury load using an NFL record 91 players. And I like the move with Robert Woods. I think Robert Woods will be a better player than Julio Jones was for the Tennessee Titans. And
what was the compensation that went back the other way for that?
2023 sixth round pick.
Oh, that's not even bad.
Yeah,
That's
the Rams ate part of his contract.
Oh, that's a great trade for the Titans.
We're paying him like what, $10 million?
Yeah, he was due 15 and we were paying him 10. Okay.
Yeah, that's really good.
Then Austin Hooper for $5 million, 1 year $5 million.
Needed that.
And I need to see a couple more moves from the Colts before I really judge them as a team. They're a hard team to judge currently. Because
there's a couple of glaring holes at left tackle,
wide
and
receiver.
And I think once those positions are filled, I think the Colts are going to have a lot more clear picture of where they stand. I think though, even as it sits right now, I think the Colts are the best team in the division, but it's hard to tell until draft day probably because the Colts aren't signing free agents.
Definitely close.
Yeah, it's always close, and it's been close since Marcus Mariota took over the reins. It's been close since about 2016.
Ever since Luck left.
Yeah, especially since Luck left. It's been the Titans division since Luck left.
Why do you guys have to bring that up?
Hey, because we haven't beaten Andrew. We never beat Andrew Luck.
Yeah, I know.
I'm glad he left.
I will never let any of you guys
11.
forget.
I was at the last game that Andrew Luck beat the Titans. It was the Blaine Gabbert game. That one doesn't count.
I was at the game that Andrew Luck retired. So
definitely interesting. I think it's something to watch. Obviously, I mean the draft is coming up. I think the Titans would be looking at another wide receiver, whether that is, I brought it up on Friday. I think they should kick the tires on Devontae Parker. Already has, obviously, Tannehill it doesn't matter how good of a receiver you are. I think if you have reps with Tannehill, you are going to be better in this offense because I think Tannehill, even with how bad he played in that playoff game, he could close his eyes and complete a pass to A.J. Brown. It was the wildest thing. And it's going to depend on reps. And I don't think a rookie's going to fill that. I'd like them to kick the tires on Devontae Parker as a cheap option. A 1 year, $6 million deal is what he's on right now. Should be traded. What do you think about that?
And don't be sending my boys to the Titans.
Oh yeah, he's a Louisville guy, isn't he?
He is a Louisville guy. He's a great player when he can stay healthy. The problem is he's been struggling to do that ever since he was at Louisville, and he has been playing with a circus of quarterbacks. So I think Devontae Parker's upside is great, but I don't know that he is the solution. But who knows? When he's not the number one, we'll see.
As a wide receiver 3, I think he would fit really well in this Titans offense.
Yeah,
he'll do better
with Tannehill than
Tua
as well.
And that's all the time we have.
Well, we have one last thing going on tonight. World Cup qualifying, 9:05 kickoff. The U.S. plays at Costa Rica in San Jose, Costa Rica. It's the last game of World Cup qualifying. The United States just has to do better than a 6-goal loss. So if they lose by 5, they're in the World Cup. Lose by 5 or better, and your United States men's national team will be at the World Cup in Qatar this November and December. Make sure to watch it. Kickoffs at 9:05.
Definitely big stuff there. Got to get in the World Cup if you're the United States. And that's all the time we have for Dylan, Jason, Justin, as well as Riley at our sponsor, Fieldhouse Social. I am Jackson, and we will catch you on Friday. Peace out, everybody.